So a little bit about on the role, and then I'll get onto the detail of analysis. So analysis is in the middle there, the role of an analyst, but you're not the hub of a football club by any stretch, but you do have contact with everyone. So from my experience, you have a lot of contact with the director of football, especially at the moment. Our director of football implements our style of play. So his idea is how the club wants to run and appoints a head coach accordingly. So I have close contact with him, always measuring through video and data what our style of play is. Is it what we think it is? How far away from it are we? And is that being aligned through all of our teams? So the B team, the 17s and 19s. Obviously with the head coach as well, that's very similar, and almost performance reviews with the players. First team coaches, we film training, we analyse training with them. So individual performances, also their performance in the session. So did they hit their coaching points that they needed during the session? First team players is an obvious one. Mark asked me just a minute ago before we came live to you, am I close to the players? I've had texts from players today about all sorts, not all football, but we do work closely with them. We do individual meetings with them on their game and also upcoming opponents. So if you are a fullback, for example, what performance trends does your opposition winger have? So you can be that little step ahead. You know, if he is right-footed, left-footed, is he going to cut inside? Will he make movements short to long? So how can we gain an advantage? Two, we aren't quite so close with the recruitment department. We will advise them on players if we see somebody standing out constantly in the league or someone of interest that we see. And then we provide support to the medical and sports science staff. So that could be helping a player return from rehab, filming their sessions, analysing their movement patterns with the experts in terms of the coach, but also providing a little bit of insight, maybe split screens and comparisons to how they were moving before. So where does analysis fit? I've shown you where it almost sits in a hierarchy within a football club. And this is probably the easiest way to explain it. So it's a constant loop. It's never ending analysis. So a player will perform. So whether that's training, a match, a training game, a friendly, competitive game, whatever that may be, a player will perform. And then that performance is analysed, whether it's done through your typical performance analysis or whether that's you self-reflecting, whatever that might be, performance is always analysed. People always have opinions of it. It's just trying to now put a official role on it to try and make that analysis process more detailed and more correct, which we'll touch on later. After performance is analysed, coaches will then take that information from the analysis, so the positives and negatives, and then will plan practice or training. So where they see a weakness or something that didn't go right in the game, they will then alter that. And then the coach will conduct that practice in terms of a training session, or it might be an off-field session in the classroom with the players. And then the player performs again, and that cycle continues. So that can happen daily in terms of training. It can happen twice a week. If you've got 2 fixtures, it's always constantly happening. So how do we analyse? As Mark's touched on, camera is obviously the most important thing. You need to capture the game. So I think this is an image from a Premier League game at Arsenal. So we capture the footage and that feeds into a laptop. And you can see slightly there a code window. So every time there's an event, we tag that event, and it essentially creates a timeline of events which can then be analysed afterwards. And you can see there our old managers, Danny and Nicky Cowley. Nicky's got an earpiece in. I haven't chosen them for any other reason than that. Is the only picture I have of the coach with an earpiece in. So we then feed back live down to the dugout during the game. So if there's something tactically which we've wanted to do or wanted to avoid, and it either is or isn't working, we can send live video and audio feedback back to the coaches, which is really powerful, because otherwise the coaches have to wait until halftime to affect it when they can see us. So if we see a problem or a change of formation, the shape of the opposition, 15 minutes in, we can help the coaches change that to alter the game. If we weren't able to do that, you could be 2-3-0 down at halftime and out of the game. So it's a real key part now of the coaching process. So this is a model sort of we're using at Huddersfield now. It's not every club does the same. However, they'll be very similar, just with different terminology. So we look at almost 3 sort of areas. We look at us, so our own performance, opposition, and then we like to call it knowledge. So it might be watching Match of the Day on a Saturday night, and by chance we see something, oh, that's really good to show our left back, our centre midfielder, and we'll make a note of it. And then when we're back in the office, we'll collate that information for meetings. So just underneath those, I won't go through them all, but so for us, you might have post-match reviews, individual development training programs, which some of the younger players will definitely have. Opposition, which is where most of my experience has come from in the past. Basic things such as style as play. Are they a team that want to possess? Are they a team that play more direct? And what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? And under all of these sections, we'll always consider performance in three ways: as a team, as a unit. It could be the defensive line, it could be the two centre backs and the holding midfielder, and on an individual level. So there's a lot of elements that go into analysis and how we want to analyse performance. It's not the only way, but this is the way the majority of clubs will look at analysis. So talking about team analysis, I'm just going to play you a very quick video. This is something we showed to our new signings. So when we talk about having analysis to help identify and measure our philosophy, we're a club which want to play out from the back and want to play. So this is something that's been shown to our new signings. So if I just let it roll through, we're trying to give them the information of our structure. So how do we want to set up in a 4-3-3 system with our forward players keeping the pitch as big as possible? Obviously, there's more detail to that. In this part here, we always want to look for an advantage. So here we play to the advantage, and some of the key principles are then shown. So can we play forward to a first line, surprise to support, and then forward runners? So they're the key sort of messages we want to keep reiterating to new signings when they come in. So even though a coach might be talking about a different element of the clip, subliminally will highlight other things. So the number 9 coming short in 2 clips to bounce and play forward. That message is still continued without necessarily what's being explained. So we might have variations where the number 6 builds deeper and the number 9 drops into midfield. But the key thing is that we keep the pitch big with the 2 wide players. So this is key information for our new players to have. Again, needing an advantage to play forward, support with runners, and third man runs off the ball. So all the time reinforcing messages in order to improve performance. That is essentially what analysis needs to do. So when you're looking at your own performance, if you're not looking for strengths and weaknesses, it can just be education. So how do the team want to play? Again, a different variation of how we want to build up. Number 9 deeper. And as I say, this is the exact video some new signings were shown in January. So how do we want to play? Just a quick introduction. Of course, there's a lot more detail to go on the grass, but as an initial introduction to the team. And the key thing is forward runners, playing forward quickly and supporting. Again, if you can't play to the first line, we'll try and play to the second line, where we are with the wing back. Support to the receiver. And just again, reinforcing the same messages to almost make it second nature to the players. So this could be any sort of topic, but this was just an introduction of how we wanted to play out from the back. The second part to team analysis is opposition analysis. So these are clips that we showed the players before Brentford last season. If I just play these through for you, these were to highlight their strengths. So in a second, you just see the 3 midfielders highlighting. And something we noticed that if the centre-backs had time and space, it allowed the midfield players to be fluid and rotate. And Ben Rama, now the wingers highlighted, we know he was a big threat at Brentford. He's got himself a big money move to West Ham and the riches of the Premier League. And again, individual analysis, a left-footed winger on the right that wants to cut inside. So we thought that was a key message to give the players before the game. Again, from a different game, so recognising patterns and then delivering it. Not a lot of pressure on the ball. Midfield rotations. And again, it's about giving the players the key messages. There's so much more you could tell them, but what are they going to be able to remember when they go on the pitch? You can see lots of rotation. So these clips were shown to the players, and it was almost like a bit of a guided discovery session in the classroom where we said, okay, so list their strengths and weaknesses. We did it in groups, we did it on the board. We come together collectively. Again, now, just to interrupt, left-footed, cross, finish. So Watkins finishes there. So what we decided was, as a team, we wanted to press high. We thought, in the clips, we've realised they are strong when teams give them time, and they're allowed to create this fluidity in midfield and play the passes they want to play. So this is then when you formulate a game plan. And the game plan is almost what the idea is to be executed. So you could do it on a tactics board. However, video analysis allows you to do this. And I'm sure you might have seen some of these types of graphics on Monday Night Football or Super Sunday and things like that.
Craig.
Yes.
Just got a question from one of our players, Charlie. He said in the chat box, would it be different if you were losing 1-0 or winning 1-0? Would you stay with the same tactics?
I think the natural thing to do is you're winning, protect. I think that all comes down to maybe the minute of the game. If you're leading after 20 minutes, do you want to kick on and improve that lead? If it's with 10 minutes to go, maybe you make a different decision. That ultimately comes down to the coach. As an analyst, you're never, ever going to make that decision. Our job is to provide the information to help the coaches make a better decision. So we might say, we're leading 1-0. However, in the last 10 minutes, they've had 6 shots, 4 of which have been on target. I think we need to change something to prevent that. And then that would then inform their decision to make it. So it's not really a simple answer to that. You'll have some managers, maybe a Pep Guardiola, that will say, no, we're winning 1-0. We're going to keep playing and playing and playing. You may have a Sheffield United who are bottom of the league, 1-0 up. They need that victory, so they will change. So there's not a straight answer. It's all team and coach and situation dependent, really. So just continuing with what our game plan was. So we used clips of Swansea where we thought they could have done it better. So here you see we've moved the players slightly for the players to see the positions we would want them to be in. So if I just play that again, you'd see they've got an advantage in midfield. So we wanted to equalise that advantage and use our number 10 here to screen the pass. We identified that their left side was strong with Ben Rama. So we wanted to try and give them a pass to force them onto the right side. And as the kit plays, you'll see a little bit more detail we gave the players. So the first one is to curve the run to close off the rest of the pitch. So we could defend as little space as possible. Again, these players didn't need to be so high, close the pitch. So we said in possession, make it as big as we can. Out of possession, we'll make it as small as we can. Again, curve a run to stop the pass back inside to this free player. And try and attach yourself to him if you can. To force it long, be aggressive, be on the front foot, regain, and that's going to be the chance where we can hit them on the counter-attack because of their open shape. So a second clip, we used QPR to show, again, this was the second half and QPR did it in this game. So we identified Norgard as their positional midfielder, so try and screen passes to him, force the pass back, curve the run. So it's reiterating the same message, close the pitch off, force things to the right side, and then try and be aggressive and on the front foot if they play to their furthest line. So one more clip to show that. Again, it's all about reiterating the same message. Not too many messages, just the same message. So what's the key points for the players to take? Again, shuffle over, make the pitch tight, and then be aggressive in the last line and be on the front foot defending. Backwards press to win it off the toes. So this is the game. This is one clip from the Huddersfield Brentford game last season. I think at the time we were 19th in the league and they were in the middle of a 10-game win streak. Oh, they were coming to the end of a 10-game win streak. So we were heavily underdogs, and it was brave for our players to go and play the game plan that we devised. So if you think about some of those key points, allowing a pass to the right side, curvature of a run to keep them on one side from both players closest to the ball. Last line on the front foot and aggressive to prevent them playing into the front. Luckily, we won that game 1-0 and our goal came from a high pressing moment and a regain. It was on the left side, but the principles were the same to keep them on that side. So that's a little bit of an insight to how you can identify some strengths and weaknesses in a team, and then how you formulate a game plan to either nullify their strengths and expose their weaknesses. Unit analysis. Unit analysis can be absolutely anything. It could be a centre-back pairing. It could be a full-back and winger pairing. It could be a 9 and 10. It could be 2 strikers. There's loads of different combinations it could be. So during our post-game reviews, looking at us, we found that we struggled to play out from the back or against a mid-block where teams play with 2 strikers or a 9 and 10 high. So a couple of clips from a QPR game where we identified that with the coaches, and we needed to come up with a solution because teams had recognised it as well. People, other clubs that do my job had realised in this moment, we'd never looked in control of possession. We kept it, but it was never controlled. Everything was on the stretch. How can we make that easier for our players and still progress up the pitch? So this one starts a little bit unstructured, but as it goes out to our left back, you'll see they get the same idea again. And it was becoming frustrating, and the players were getting frustrated with it as well. That was the feedback they were giving myself and to the coaches, that we didn't feel like we had any pictures in front of us of what we wanted to do, or what we wanted to do wasn't there. And this one we end up back with a goalkeeper. So we sat and spoke with the coaches. We looked at other teams, how they've done it. And this is a real big part of where analysis is going now. It's something I said to Mark before, and the preconception of an analyst maybe 2-3 years ago was the geek in the stands with a laptop. If you need a cable because you forgot your phone charger, go and ask the analyst, the geek will have one. But now you're getting a little bit more respect, if you want to call it, from players and things like that, where you're now becoming an off-field coach. You're not necessarily always delivering the message to the players, but you're helping create that message with the coaches. So we devised a new build-up structure when we play against a front 2, where we'd play with 3 and have 1 in front of that. So whether that's 3 centre-backs or a narrow full-back or a midfielder between the 2 centre-backs, we wanted to create this structure to break that press. So, like anything, you devise the idea, you identify the weakness, devise your solution, and then you work on it. So that's no different to what you'll be doing in your sessions, whether that's once a week, twice a week. You have an aim for your session, and video analysis can help almost concrete why you're doing it. So it's easier for the coaches and yourselves as players to identify parts of your game you wish to improve. So whether that's as a team or as an individual. So this was the session we devised. Obviously, there's a few different patterns of how we told the players they could do it. So apologies, but the kit man has killed me a little bit in this, where the 2 players there are actually in green bibs. It isn't everybody in blue. And it's the camera that gives it that, where it isn't so clear. So this is the session, the day we did the session, centre-back into midfielder and play out the other side. So the message with the coaches was that if the 3 are spread, the 2 can't get to everybody. So it'd allow the player on the ball more time. And if somebody does jump to the player on the ball, that's when you play the pass. So we thought, or we believed, that in a game playing against a front 2, that would give us more time on the ball and also force the opposition back. So this is in the build up to the Watford game. And here you can clearly see the structure's different. And the 2 players have got to defend against 4 in that massive area, something which we weren't able to create before. Now, I'm sure if you've done rondos and things like that in training, if you're playing 4v2 in an area like that, you're not going to be too happy about being in the middle. So we thought this is how we could create the advantage. Again, this has all come from video analysis. Why did we struggle against QPR in the build-up phase? We believed it was this reason. So then we tried to create a solution and then implement it in the next game. See, this one doesn't quite come off. You could definitely see the difference in terms of time and space with the ball. So Watford had just, for a little bit of context, Watford had just put their new manager in place, and they'd gone very high pressing as well. So it was something we were more worried about against Watford. However, we believe the positional structure and the distances between defenders here enabled us to dominate the game. So again, this has all come down from video analysis. As soon as somebody jumps, play into the space, play forward. And at this moment, that alteration in structure enabled us to take 6 Watford players out of the game. Whereas against QPR, we ended up going back to the goalkeeper. So it was a real big difference for us and something that's helped us a lot this season. Down to individual analysis. So there's a couple of players on there you may recognise. So Carl and Grant, who's not played so many games at West Brom, but scored over 20 goals for us last season. And Emile Smith-Rowe, who we brought in January on loan, who's done wonders in the Premier League so far, making a great career of himself. We lost those two players this season. See, Emile's gone back to Arsenal, we sold Carlo. So we had a whole of 25 goals or assists, 25 goal involvements or more with the players that left the club. And with the current pandemic and everything that's going on and finances, we weren't in a position where we could invest heavily in an attacking player. And typically, attacking players cost more money. So again, it was a problem. And as analysts, how can we help the coaches solve this problem? So we looked at individual performances of the wingers left in the group and the number 10s left in the group, and we felt they weren't as I'm trying to think of the word, as lethal in the 1v1 moments as Emile and Carlo. Now, they haven't necessarily got the same skill set as those players, may not be as quick. However, you can always improve. You can always improve, and these little marginal gains that analysis can give you, that little bit of detail, is what we use to try and do that. So what we did, and it comes from the knowledge element of what we spoke about, we took goals from Europe. So this is Leicester in the Europa League. Maddison in that 1v1 moment, beating his man and cross. So reiterating to the players initially, why is it so important? Here, Barcelona, Champions League, biggest stage you can get. So we were finding moments to then influence the players, make them believe they can do it by explaining them how they can do it. So simple coaching points, which you assume professional football players know because they're professional. But the reinforcement of that message has improved us massively, and you'll see this as the clips go on. So we showed them a couple more. So this one's Napoli, and what we got them to focus on, we felt they were trying to beat people too early. We thought the distances between themselves and the fullback were too big. So when they changed the direction of the ball, manipulated the ball to move in a certain way, the defender could match it quite easily. So what we worked with the coaches was talking about the timing. So here you can just see the opposition players crossed his legs in his movement. So now he's not balanced and able to move. That's the moment to use your power and change direction. So something very simple, which I'm sure you guys work with your coaches a lot in 1v1 moments. How can you beat a player? Talking about balance. Think of it, if you're a defender, think of it from the defender's point of view. How do you get beaten 1v1? So even that very simple message can have an effect at the top level. So again, providing knowledge, obviously that's a great finish as well. Bayern Munich as well, obviously a leading team in the world. How has individual analysis helped us? This moment here, where the defender is unbalanced, his legs together, his knees are straightening. That's the moment you shift the ball and can get your strike away. And I'm sure you all know who this is, I don't need to say. Black and white stripes of Juve, 1v1. There's only one outcome here. Ronaldo, 1v1. He's got his player square, shift the ball and finish. So we started to work on it in training really simply to start with, just getting used to the movement. So the intensity in this clip is nowhere near where it needs to be. It was just about familiarization with the movement. And this is something we watched after training with the players. So thinking how you guys can use Veo and your technology, you can have a session, and then it could be one of your coaches, Mark, Adam, whoever that may be, feeding back to you about your technique in that drill. And that's how powerful it can become. Again, like I say, the intensity is poor. It was meant to be, and you'll see as the clips progress what they worked on. So very simply, this is actually the head coach taking a couple of the wingers to one side because he was so intensely interested in improving it. He's defending himself. So here, Josh Karoma, 1v1, waiting to unbalance and snapping that pass, and snapping that touch away to get the finish on. Again, as you see, as the weeks went over in pre-season, it started to improve. All different types, so not just left and right side, cutting inside, also going on the outside to make it unpredictable, because after a couple of pre-season games, we realised every winger wanted to drive inside, and that's not something we wanted. So then, now it's come to the season. What does it look like for us? And Benza now, so again, using video and data hand in hand, he has now double the amount of take-ons he had per 90 minutes than last season. So again, he's drawn the player in and snapped the ball away when he's needed to. Again, all creating goal scoring opportunities, something that some players lacked and we thought we were going to miss. This one, not necessarily the movement inside, but the repetition of the finish and the analysis of him finding the corners allows Josh to score this. Very similar to one of the goals you saw from Napoli. Josh was the real project for us, a young player, so here's him playing on the right. Exactly the same. Finding that moment to beat the player is a huge improvement comparative to his clips when he was away on loan at Rotherham last season. Unbalance the player at the correct moment, shift the ball and finish. All becoming second nature, all down to the analysis and reaffirming the message of what the coaching point was. Because the key thing is we all learn different ways. I'm a visual learner. I need to see things. A coach can show you something on the tactics board, which is powerful. That's visual. But if you can see a player doing it in the flesh on the pitch, that message then becomes even clearer again. And you also start to take in other parts of the game which aren't necessarily being discussed by the coach. The final one really on individual analysis. Goalkeepers out there, we don't forget about you either. So goalkeepers, your stuff's just important for us. We are currently employing a goalkeeper analyst who works solely with the goalkeepers throughout the club. So it's a massive part of the game. You won't be forgotten either. In its simplest form, we look at opposition penalty takers. So this was a recent game against Derby. Kazim Richards, a little sidestep at the beginning of his run-up and a side foot finish to the goalkeeper's left. That's typically his penalty. It's not saying on Tuesday night or on Saturday, this is the penalty he's going to take. It's giving people information, valid, true information picked up on video, not just opinion, that can then be used. Simple messages the players can remember. So with this accompanies a shot map or a penalty map, if you want to call it that, of where he likes to go. So this was one of the last things the player saw before he went out. So as you can see from that, his preference is to go to the goalkeeper's left and low. Yes, there is a chance of him going to the goalkeeper's right, down the middle, there always is. But how can we use video analysis to inform decision making? Following this normally would be a reel of those penalties pictured in the map, but I haven't added it onto this for you. So finally, why use analysis? The main thing is to make feedback accurate. That studies have been done in sports science and in analysis literature that even top Premier League coaches, when asked and quizzed, can actually only recall between 60 and 73% of information back correctly. If you think how many events go on in a game, it's not as bad as it sounds, 60%. I'm sure with the top coaches, it might be slightly higher, but these are professional coaches. So how can we help them recall those events? By showing them again. It's as simple as that. So it can be used to view training in games from an alternative angle on a pitch as a player. If you're playing centre midfield, your head's always on the swivel. You only see really what's around you. When you see the game from a higher angle, you see more of the pitch, you see spaces you didn't see. And that's where the coaches can start to advise you on, well, if you make a movement into this space, which you didn't see because your perspective on the pitch, that can then start to improve your game. It's all about discovery. So not just what, it's fine to say in those clips Ronaldo scored a goal, but why did he score the goal? Because he unbalanced his fullback at the right moment. Why were Huddersfield able to keep the ball in those situations? Because they had an overload of players. It's all about the why. It's easy, as Mark said, to just watch football, but why do events happening? I'm sure you've all got your favourite teams and you either score goals more commonly in a certain way or concede goals more commonly in a certain way. And I'm very sure their analysts will be working on that with the coaches to improve the other areas of the game, to score from all types of areas, or trying to work hard on that moment in the game where they're conceding a lot of goals, whether that be from set plays or from open play and counter-attacks. I think the key thing is analysis can create a feedback loop. So as we saw at the beginning, the performance, the coach, plan, and go again. So in your scenario, it's going to be brilliant where both players, coaches, parents can all get involved in that moment to better understand training, the performance, and ultimately improve development. As you've seen, you can use it for education. So player education in terms of philosophy, an idea, It could be showing the players a clip of the 1v1 moment, or midfielder receiving on the back foot and playing forward, the best in the world doing it, to inspire them and show them the detail of what the very best do. And then you can do that too, as a coach, to implement that session plan and implement that session, or as a player on the pitch yourself. So overall, analysis helps with development, whether that's as a team, an individual, or a unit. And it helps all four corners of the model. So technical performance, tactical, whether you need to make changes in the game to improve the game state, and psychological, so your decision making and almost your emotion in the game. So understanding why things happen can also help you with that. And that's everything from me. Hopefully it's given you a little bit of an insight into analysis, and can inspire you to improve yourselves and develop as players and coaches. That's everything, Mark.